All right, guys, we have a little bit of show and tell today because in Danvers, Massachusetts, the new frontier of education, of course, is not math and of course is not science. Absolutely not. It's guilt because some absolute genius decided what these 8th graders needed in this school. What they really needed was not fractions or not essays, but a guided tour of their subconscious bias. And again, this is happening in middle school. This is middle school, guys. These kids are like 13 or 14 years old. Can somebody please tell me what the hell is going on here? What is happening here with our education system? And you could sit there and think to yourself, Mike, this is an isolated incident, okay? This is an isolated event. But the document, which I'll share on my screen here in a few minutes, I'll do it after I edit. I'll put it up on the screen. But this document looks eerily similar to what happened in Natick School about 5 or 6 months ago. And it's absolutely absurd. You think about this. Can't these poor kids just survive 8th grade heading into high school without being labeled some kind of oppressor? The worksheet pretty much tells these kids that racism isn't about being mean. It's about systems where white people hold power. This stuff gets me really fired up, guys, because we have kids too, and I see the nonsense as well. But let's be fair for a second here. Nobody is against, I'm certainly not against teaching history. I'm sure you're not either. You could teach it all. The good, the bad, the ugly, whatever it is, okay? Whatever it is, you could teach it. But this is not about teaching history. This is some kind of like moral theater. I would say that if this was being taught in a college, maybe sociology class, I think that would be a legitimate framework for some kind of theoretical debate, okay? Totally fine. But in the context of 8th grade, it's being presented as fact, not theory, okay? It's presented as fact and not theory. Because there's no historical context, there's no counterexamples, and there's no discussion of how these kinds of systems evolve. So here's, of course, what happened next. Parents found out about this, and they are pissed. Absolute shocker. I guess they don't love their kids being lectured about collective guilt between lunch and gym, okay? And then the school, they get involved, and they tried to say that they are, meaning the parents are misrepresenting it. Misrepresenting it, that's basically bureaucratic code for you caught us, but we're going to attempt to gaslight you into thinking that this is a good idea or to gaslight you into stop caring. That's what they do. And then, of course, the next to come up was the teachers union. And they claimed that this is censorship. Okay, the parents want censorship. Censorship? No, it's called parenting. And honestly, I think that the majority of these teachers pushing these type of documents, and I could be wrong here, but I think that the majority of them probably don't have children themselves. Because when you look at something like this, and then you look at your class, I mean, don't you do some kind of double take? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, is this appropriate to be teaching 13-year-olds? But the only logical conclusion I could come up with is that you don't get to accuse parents of censorship for wanting to understand what moral operating system you are installing inside of their child's heads. I'm sorry, I really am. But since when did the educator autonomy mean I get to socially program your children? Because that's what I feel like is happening here, and it's happening at scale. And we wonder why our kids have anxiety. We wonder why our kids are nervous. You think maybe telling a bunch of 13-year-olds that they were born into some kind of moral debt might do it? When I was in 8th grade, my biggest fear, when I got to 8th grade, they started like some kind of Italian class, and it was the first year that they offered it, okay? That obviously made me a little bit worried because I had these, we had nuns teaching us in Catholic school, okay? And it wasn't too easy. But now, the fact of the matter here is that these poor kids, they have to walk around wondering if their mere existence is an act of oppression. You see what I'm saying here? And think about the context, okay? We're not talking about college philosophy majors. These are middle school children. They're middle school children. They probably think nuance is some kind of brand of vape. I mean, that really, they're young. You know what I'm saying? They're young and impressionable. And teaching this type of stuff, I find absolutely absurd. You can't expect them to unpack 400 years of history with some levels of responsibility. You're not enlightening them. You're just confusing them, and you're confusing them into silence. But that's the trick. That's the trick. Make them too afraid to speak. You say it's about like critical thinking, but God forbid you actually think critically about that. You can't raise kids to be free thinkers while giving them pre-approved or pre-scrubbed opinions. That's not education. It ends up just being propaganda. That's all that it is. And meanwhile, Massachusetts test scores, they're tanking. Reading proficiency is down. Math scores are in a free fall. And somehow, some way, the only solution to this problem is more sociology in middle school. How could this be? How could this be? And I know this is not only happening in Natick and Danvers. I know that some of you are parents watching this, and you know this is happening in your schools too. If you find something like this, send it to me, okay? And the fact is, a lot of these towns can't even balance a damn budget, okay? And they're constantly looking for overrides while they simultaneously can't teach our kids how to write a coherent sentence, okay? But they sure as hell know exactly where they rank on the oppression pyramid. That's what's happening to these poor kids. So thank you for that. And this isn't, people will say this is about banning books or hating teachers. It has nothing to do with that. And these people, what they do is they accuse parents of wanting to ban books, but that's their only talking point. And the irony of that is that they claim to be the champion of critical thinking, but only when it serves their own beliefs. And look, I'm not saying kids shouldn't read difficult books. I think I made that pretty clear earlier, because they absolutely should. But let's stop pretending that every parental objection is some form of fascism. That word is just being used so freely nowadays, amongst other words as well. And the word ban, when you think about it, it used to mean something, and it used to mean something serious. But now it just means, yeah, I disagree. And if a parent questions a book, a course, or anything of that nature, they want a ban. That's not true. And it's a disservice to the parents. So, that's it. It's disgusting. But when a teacher does it, and when they question some kind of policy or whatever is going on in their school, somehow, some way, that's bravery. But a parent can't teach or ask questions about what their kids are learning. It's astonishing to me, because the truth is, most parents aren't trying to burn books. They're trying to read the fine print. And I'm trying to read that fine print too. We want transparency. We don't want some levels of censorship. And is it crazy to think that we don't want schools turning critical thinking into critical theory? I mean, there's a huge difference there, guys. One is teaching kids how to think. The other one teaches them what to think, okay? Big problem there. And I think that's the game, especially when you look at these unions and these teacher associations. They build this moral trap where if you speak up, even the parents, you are intolerant. And if you stay quiet, you're complicit. It's a self-sealing logic, and they always do these things in their favor. And that's why I'm making this video. And that's why when they say the book ban talking points, it could sound righteous, okay? But it's never engaging with reality. So here's my question. When did education stop being about knowledge and start being about confessions? Really, since when did learning mean repentance? Because this new version of school, it's not preparing kids for the real world. It's preparing them to crumble when they meet it. We cannot continuously keep on teaching very, very young kids, okay? Remember, that is the context of this video. These are very young, impressionable kids. We cannot be introducing this type of stuff into them, have a one-course curriculum on these type of topics, and then expect them to know everything about it and everything about the real world, okay? They're too young for this stuff. And I'm also so sick of hearing that this is some kind of book ban or this. It's absolutely ridiculous, because there's absolutely no logical talking points that both the administration or the teachers or their unions or the associations, whatever it is, they have no logical other reason but to label it like that, because it's a hot ticket word or a hot ticket phrase, right? It's ludicrous to me. It's absolutely crazy.